Welcome back to an introduction to Heroclix. This series of videos will give you everything you need to know about the game of Heroclix and show you what truly makes it such a unique game. In our last video, we took a look at some of Superman and Lex Luthor's powers: super strength, invulnerability, running shot, penetrating psychic blast, energy shield deflection, and probability control. But of course, there's so much more to a battle than just who's in the fight. So let's start by taking a look at the map and the types of terrain. Each type of terrain is shown by the colored outlines on the map. Our first type is the starting area, marked with the purple outline. This is the area where each team is placed at the start of the game. The next type of terrain we run into is called hindering terrain. Hindering represents things like bushes or debris on the field and is marked with a green outline. When your character makes a ranged attack through or into hindering, the defending character adds 1 to their defense. Also, when a character that does not have the flight ability moves into hindering terrain, they must stop their movement, and in later turns their speed is reduced by half when they move out of the hindering terrain. Our third type of terrain, marked with a brown border, is called blocking terrain. Blocking terrain represents structures like columns and other solid objects that a character would not be able to move through or see through. The next terrain, marked in red, is called elevated terrain. Elevated terrain represents the top of buildings and other structures that would be on a distinctly different elevation from the rest of the play area. When a character that does not have the flight ability moves up onto elevated terrain, they do so on a ladder or other transition area marked by red arrows. And our last type of terrain is water terrain, marked with the blue outline. Water terrain represents streams and lakes on the battlefield. And just like hindering terrain, when a character that walks enters water terrain, they must stop their movement. And when leaving, their speed is reduced by half. But water terrain is clear for line of sight and attacking. Now, I've mentioned the flight ability as we talked about terrain. Characters with the flight symbol, like Superman, can fly, and they move through hindering terrain, over blocking terrain, and into elevated terrain without penalty. Once you have your characters on the map, you also have the option of using objects. Each player may choose to add objects to the game. If they do, they may add up to 3 on the map, each in a clear square outside the starting area. The 3 objects may be 1 light object, which have a yellow ring, 1 heavy object, which have a red ring, and 1 additional object, either a light or heavy object. Characters with super strength, like Superman, may use objects as weapons when making attacks. When used in a close combat attack, light objects will add 1 to a character's damage value. They may also be thrown up to 6 squares as part of a ranged combat attack and would inflict 2 damage to the hit character. Heavy objects, though, add 2 to your damage in close combat attacks and can be thrown up to 4 squares to possibly inflict 3 damage when they hit a character. Also note, when placed on the map, objects act as hindering terrain for purposes of movement and defense. Next, you should know about the effects that can happen as you roll the dice. Whenever you roll for an attack, there are 3 special types of rolls that can cause more than just a hit or a miss. First is knockback, which happens when you hit with double 2s, 3s, 4s, or 5s. Knockback represents when your attack was so powerful that you knock your target away from your character 1 square for each damage done. Next, when you roll 2 6s, this is a critical hit. With this roll, your attack was so successful that you not only automatically hit and cause knockback, but you also do 1 additional damage. And our last special roll is when you roll 2 1s. This is called a critical miss. When you critically miss, your attack went so wildly off target that you automatically miss and cause 1 damage to yourself. And our last topic is action tokens. Each character may only be given 1 action per turn. When you give a character an action, place an action token next to that character. You can use anything from beads, coins, or other small objects to act as action tokens. Moving, attacking, and most powers cost actions, but some powers do allow the character to take what is called a free action. If a power indicates that you can give your character a free action, it does not require you to place an action token on your character. Now, when your character starts a turn with an action token, they may be given another action. This is called pushing a character. When an action is given to a character that would cause a second action token to be placed on that character is now considered pushed and is given 1 click of damage, representing the character overexerting themselves. That is, unless they have the ability Indomitable, like Superman. This is indicated by the special defense shield icon with the stripe through it. Indomitable represents characters with incredible stamina and allows characters to be given a second action token without taking pushing damage. Each character may be only given 1 action per turn. If you don't give your character an action, at the end of your turn, you may remove all action tokens from your character. This is called clearing a character. From terrain to action tokens, there's a lot of strategy involved in Heroclix. But now that we've covered most of the rules of the game, it's time to start playing. In our next video, we'll put everything we looked at in all 3 of our videos into action as Superman faces his arch-rival Lex Luthor. To find out more on your own, go to Heroclix.com and download the Rules and Powers and Abilities card, or ask about Heroclix at your local game store. See you next time and enjoy the game.